all those years, like Paco came to me, who I never had much love for, and asked me to trim the pine trees up. I said, I'm not trimming no pine trees up. The pine trees were put there for a purpose. You know, I said, if you get under a pine tree, you gotta work your way out of it. I said, they were put there for safety and a hazard. Well, the boys want, I said, I don't give a goddamn what the boys want. I said, I'm not trimming no pine trees up. I says, my guys would throw a fit if they seen me do that. You know, the guys I worked for, which I was sort of devoted to because I worked with them all those years, you know, and well, that was one thing that it was sort of time for me to, so he asked me, he said, you think you're willing to retire? And I said, yeah. I said, I was 65 years old. I said, it's time for me to move on. And then he had this other guy, Jim, that on the scene. So it was time for me to leave. And that was the end of it.
Well, I remember when we had the party for you here, I still have one of the pins and the flag, the yellow flag, and the holder, and a couple of the markers that said, well, you know, anybody want these, you know.
Yeah.
I still have that in my home,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have a green in my backyard. But I have that somewhere along the line. We can hang it up in some room, I don't know where, but what you've told us for historical purposes is extremely, extremely important, because all of this information is lost forever, and now it will not be lost. And the future people who work on the Greens Committee can want to look into your discussion here of what and how it came to be, and the accomplishments and the thoughts and the things that you accomplished here, which are outstanding, really, from the Thomas Edison era almost,
Yeah.
to high tech as you left for computerization coming on next. But the key to it is dedication of you individually, as I know, and other people who know and recognize that, to all the years of service and wanting to be here. It was always amazing that everybody said, does he ever go home? I mean, you were always in that cart running back and forth, and they saw you, and they realized the dedication of what you love to do, and the result is just all around us now.
Well, you have to enjoy what you do. I've said that all my life, and I can't understand, especially young people today, that a lot of them don't have the work ethic that. And I just love to work. I mean, I couldn't wait to get here in the morning and didn't want to leave at night. I mean, I just loved to be doing something. And no matter what it was, another little story I can tell you is I can't think offhand who was involved. Who was the guy that worked for Procter and Gamble?
Benson.
Benson, yeah, Benson. Dave Benson was, I think, the president. And Warren Vodak was involved in this. Him and I used to growl at each other about the cart paths all the time because he never liked to stay on the path. He still don't, I guess. But anyhow, they called me in the halfway house that was here, and they were having trouble in the clubhouse. Caritas was a manager.
Yes.
Who was a good guy. He was a nice guy, but he had no, I don't know, for some reason he didn't have the, maybe he didn't want to or didn't know how or anyhow, but the maintenance in this clubhouse was really going downhill, and the fire department was in here, and they went in the attic and they wanted to condemn the place and all that. So Benson says, Chuck, would you mind coming into the clubhouse and taking over the maintenance? And I says, you know, I really don't like the clubhouse. I says, too many variables, too many different types of people, you know, I says, and women, and I says, well, it's not really, he says, Chuck, please, he says, we're having a lot of problems and we need somebody to come in here to get the thing straightened out. So I said, well, and they give me a couple pennies in the paycheck, you know, they said, well, give you a couple bucks. And so in the clubhouse I came. Well, first thing I did was fire the maintenance guy, broomed him, hired another guy, wasn't any better than he was, I broomed him, hired another guy, still no good, I broomed him, and finally got a guy by the name of Don Coles. He was an older ex-carpenter. He was a carpenter by trade, excellent, older guy, good work ethic. And I had my people go in that attic and we cleaned it out and painted the floors and put up shelves and put stuff on. And we had this black guy that was in the dining room that I don't remember his name, but I guess he served, he done cooking at the tables and that. We had a bunch of, well, the order was, there's nobody allowed in the attic. After we got it all fixed up nice and cleaned up and threw a lot of junk out and painted everything and put everything in place and put a padlock on the door. Nobody's allowed in there except the manager and maybe the chef or somebody, the rule was. And Dave Benson, of course, inspected it and he was happy with the whole thing. And so this guy, I can't recall his name, but he broke the lock on the door and put his stuff on the steps, all his cooking stuff. So I went in there one day and what the hell's going on? So I cornered this guy and I said, hey buddy, you're not allowed in the attic. That's orders from headquarters. Well, I says, the next time you put your junk in that attic, I says, you'll find it in a dumpster. And I said, you better believe what I'm talking about. I said, I mean business. Get it out of here. Well, he says, I'll put that. I says, I don't want to hear nothing. Just get it out of there. Where do I put it? I don't care where you put it. Just get it out of the attic. That's the order. So I got a bigger lock and put on the door. And that was the end of that. But he was very belligerent on keeping that junk he had in pots and pans and whatever in the. But anyhow, after I got the thing, then we got a new manager. I can't recall his name. He was a younger guy, and he was sort of with it. And then that's when I got out of the clubhouse, which I really didn't want to be in here anyhow. So.
What was your toughest hole to maintain out here?
What was that?
The toughest hole to maintain or keep up or work on?
Well, my job was to maintain the property was what my job was. And like I say, we did it all. We put the fence around the property. We did that in-house. And had the thing surveyed, so we made sure we were on the right property, and we did that in the fall and winter, and we started out, and I got the building code, you know, and I became a pretty good friend of the building inspector. Bill Price was his name. He's gone now. And he brought the code down, and we were allowed 6-foot fence, 2 strands of barbed wire facing in on this property. So over on 11, you know this story? Over on 11, we put the fence up. There was a guy, a member over there, I can't think of his name, but he stood in front of the bulldozer. He says, the builder told me we were able to walk out, and I said, those builders will tell you the moon is made of ice cream. I says, our order, get the hell out of the road. We're, you know, because I was clearing a spot with a bulldozer. I said, you're gonna get hurt, I'll run over you. Oh, damn it. I forget who the guy next door to the Shins, what was the guy's name? Do you remember?
The name of Keller.
Keller, yeah, Keller. He was sort of, yeah. But anyhow, here we put the barbed wire up, which was quite a chore. We had to put the stanchions on, you know, and I guess the people over there at Savannah, somewhere, you know, they thought it was World War III or something. They couldn't stand the barbed wire, so Dave Benson says, Chuck, you got to take that barbed wire off. I says, bullshit. I said, that's a code. He says, I don't care. He said, you got to take it off. So we took the barbed wire off. I guess they raised all kind of hell over there.
Sue the club, and they were going to litigation and so on.
But then we left the stanchions on, you know. So he called me. He said, Chuck, you got to take those things off of the top of the. I said, you're kidding me. I said, we got to unwind the whole damn fence to get those. He said, I don't care. Just get them off of there. I said, he said, you got to. They're still raising hell with us. So had to unwind the fence and take the stanchions off that the barbed wire went on. And then the rule is here in Westlake, you're not allowed to make noise till 9 o'clock on weekends. Well, we start 5:30, 6 o'clock. So Doc Tupa, he was the boss. The lady there by the shop was always calling me and raising hell about the noise and blah, blah, blah. So Doc Tupa says to me, he says, Chuck, if anybody complains to you, he said, just tell them to call me. I'll take care of it. So one Sunday, the police come. You're not allowed to make noise till 9 o'clock, young man. I said, well, call the boss. I said, I'm not calling anybody. Give me a ticket.
Oh.
So I called. I said, I got a ticket, you know, for making noise. Well, he said, Chuck, I'll handle it. Well, I had to go up here to Rocky River to the courthouse. He sent a lawyer. Chuck Young was a lawyer. He sent me with him. Chuck says, don't say nothing. Just keep quiet. I'll handle it. So there was a blind judge, that Holmes guy.
Yes.
So I don't know what it cost a club, a couple, $300-400, but anyhow, he paid the fine. And so a few weeks later, here come the police again. Give me another ticket. So I called. He says, Chuck, don't worry about it. So up to the courthouse we go again. So that judge says to me, he says, who in the hell you think you are anyhow breaking the law? Just because you work at that fancy country club, he says, don't mean you can break the law. He said, how would a couple of days in jail, would that get your mind straightened out? I told Chuck, I said, hey, I says, this is bullshit. I says, I've never been in jail. I says, So I guess they had a meeting with the, I guess they have an association, or they had a meeting, and the rule was that we were allowed to start early, but we had to stay out of that area, which was like a life sentence, because we had a lot of our stuff, like stone and everything, dumped in that area by the shop. We weren't allowed to go in there till 10 o'clock in the morning, which was, but that was another. I said, now they're going to put me in jail for working. How can you beat that?
Not retired, but in jail. Well, maybe that'd be the same thing. Free meals, you know, a roof over your head.
We've got about 1 minute of tape left, so I just wanted to ask you, thinking back on your time out here, Chuck, what are you most proud of?
Well, I'm just proud of being able to be here and doing what I did over the years, and I know a lot of people at the club. It's the same as no matter where you're at. You know, you meet a lot of wonderful people, and then you meet people that you wish you never met, and everywhere in between. You know, because some of the people, Tom Ferry, who was president here, just a wonderful guy. The last Cleveland Open we had, it was all over and done with. He was president then, I think, and they had the concession guys that were supposed to clean up the area after everything was done. They were supposed to clean the area up, all the paper and everything. So the guy came up to me and says, well, we're leaving, we're done. And I could see paper all over the place, you know, so I called Tom Ferry. And I says, Mr. Ferry, I said, these guys are leaving. I said, they didn't clean the place up. Shit everywhere. He says, Chuck, tell them to stay right there. I'll be out there in 15 minutes. Right out here at the pro shop, he pulled in his car. He got out of his car and he ripped those guys a new rear end. Boy, he called them everything under the sun, and you won every cigarette butt and I mean, he really gave it to them.